Hi and welcome to another episode of TRX Bench. So today here on the bench we have an ICOM IC-736 and the radio is already connected to the testing meters here around, and well, I am going to install here an oven controlled oscillator. So that is this original CR282 from ICOM, and for the moment in time we have only our normal crystal one, and this crystal crystal oscillator is not as stable as the owner want it to have, so we go and change it. And I thought it is a good idea to show how you have to do it and where you need to have an eye on, and so let's start with the procedure. But first we will take here some figures, and therefore I connected it all. As you can see, we have here our Roder and Schwarz communication tester, and up there we have our frequency counter. And when I now set here our unit into transmit, then you see already that our frequency here is moving depending on temperature and all sorts of stuff, and the radio itself is not completely heated up, and you see we have a little frequency arrow. I mean, it is not that huge, but depending on the environment where you use your radio, it could be more than what you can see here on our counter. Alright, so for the moment in time we are 10 Hertz off, and you see it is a little bit obviously temperature dependent. So the radio is here transmitting with 13 watt into our tester, and yeah, you see it is still moving a little bit, and that is something what the owner of the radio finds really annoying, that you know, the frequency is always moving around, and therefore let's go into our crystal replacement, the normal one, to an oven controlled 30 megahertz high stability unit. Okay, and now I have flipped the unit over, and what we can find down here is the normal crystal, and you see, yeah, it is really only a normal crystal, so that is nothing special, and no wonder why it is moving by changing temperature. And the only way to get things like this under control is to use the high stability one, and that one looks like this here. Let me see if you can read it. Obviously not that good, but maybe you can see it a little bit. So it is not really difficult, because we only have 4 pins here. So this here is obviously our heating pins to get the crystal to the right temperature, and then of course we have here our 2 pins for the crystal itself, and that simply needs to get placed here into the original one, and therefore we have to take out here our PLL board completely, and then we need to take out here our original crystal, and we need to fit in the high stability one, and then it might be necessary to line it a little bit. We will see after we have replaced this one into the radio. So let's start the process here. Okay, first, so we have here 6 screws around the board, and then we have here the little coax wires which we have to disconnect, and we have here ribbon wire which needs to get disconnected as well, and then we should be able to lift out the board. So I will do that first, and then we take a closer look. Okay, and here is our PLL board. So now we have to desolder our crystal, and it looks like that somebody already yeah, it looks a little bit yeah, somebody was definitely in for an unknown reason, but you see that here our solder points are already touched, so don't know why, but anyways, we have now to take here our crystal out. Okay, I think we can do this job with some solder braid here, and I put of course here a little bit flux onto our solder points, and then we definitely should be able to get the old crystal out, of course, and we need to make here this little hole free, which is for the heating circuit. You can see it here, so that is the sign for the heating circuit, and therefore of course we need to free here the hole that we can stick here our new high stability crystal into it. Oh, it worked quite well with the solder braid, so normally now we should be able to remove it, and yes, we are able, and it is completely out, and all our holes are free, so that our new one should fit. But first I want to clean it here a little bit, that all the flux will be taken away, and then we go ahead. Okay, so now let's try to fit here the new high stability crystal in, and again you need to look here for the symbols on the bottom. Not sure if you can see it now, that way. So you see the upper one is our crystal, and the lower one is the heating circuit, and of course we need to match it here. So that means our crystal needs to go into these holes here, and now of course we need to get it in. Let's see that it completely works, and yeah, so now all the pins are in, and we only need to solder them down. By the way, once again, I believe that really somebody soldered here already. Anyways, so let's solder it in, and then we can put the PCB back to the radio, and let's see if it will work. And to solder it, it is really not very difficult. So let's see how you can manage it. So you need to solder it here. Here we are, and yeah, that is already the whole trick. And of course our PCB needs to go back here into our radio, and that is what we want to do right now, and then we are already ready for testing. Alright, all is back in place now, and you see here we have our new oven controlled crystal. And yeah, let's simply check what's going on here with our unit. So I go down, that we can see the display when I switch it on. And yeah, so sounds good. Sounds really good. We have a signal. That is great, but let me double check our figures, okay? Okay, RX test, and what we can see so far is that really we have a nice and clean signal, no problem. But as I told you, we probably need to align here our C-79, I believe. I show you the location in a bit. But therefore, to be sure if we have to do something or not, let me go up to our counter. Okay, and of course I have to set the unit now into transmit, what I'm going to do right now. And what we see is, yeah, so that is expected. We need to realign our oven controlled oscillator. You see that for the moment in time we are off 77 Hertz, which is of course too much, especially when we work on SSB. Once again, working on SSB means we should not have a larger error than 30 Hertz. So in this case it is definitely too much. So let me show you the location of our little trim cap, and then let's see that we can get into the spec. Okay, so here we are, and again here is our PLL board, and then we are looking for C79, which is a little trim cap, and you already can see it down there. So that is our little red trim cap, and now we try to align our crystal that we match more or less the required frequency. And by the way, touching here our oven, I can tell you that is quite hot, and that is really a good sign, because that is the sense of an oven controlled oscillator. So there is a heater inside to keep the crystal on a predefined temperature, and holding this temperature means of course that the crystal itself can hold its frequency. So that is very simple, and therefore if you touch your often controlled oscillator and you feel that it is warm, then it is fine. Okay, now let's go back to our counter and let's try to fix it. Okay, so first let me reduce here my RF power a little bit if possible. Yeah, so I'm going down here to, I don't know, 3 watt. So that is enough to be able to read our frequency, and on the other hand we do not heat here our power amplifier too much. Alright, so then let's try to move it here a little bit and let's see if we can get it down. And you see, it is already very close where we want to have it. So we are already below 30 Hertz, and now you see that we get into the target area, which is of course 0. And if that is achieved, then we would be happy, but as always it is around our target, always a little bit touchy. But yeah, as I already said, it is not really necessary to get it exactly on 0, because you will not recognize it when you use the transceiver. It is much more important to be sure that you know, the delta is not too huge. Yeah, let me try to twiggle here a little bit off camera, maybe that I can get it a bit better, but as I said, for now it is already excellent. Okay, and I guess I leave it that way, even it is jumping maybe 1 digit, but that is really close enough. And yeah, you see 1 digit back and forth, so that is fine. So quite happy with it. Okay, so that was our little crystal demonstration, and I hope you found it a little bit useful. And so we stop here, and thank you for watching, and catch you next time. Bye.